Hello YouTube. Here I am. I'm going to shave my hands and I'm going to experiment with the giant foot rasp cheese grater file, which I've never done on my hands before. You can see I have these pockets of skin missing from my palms. That's where, and I shaved my fingertip because it was bothering me. But I'm nervous to use this grater, but I'm going to give it a shot and see how well it does. You can see it's not quite shaped like a cheese grater, but it has similar openings and like little fluted tine parts that poke out to be able to grate off the skin kind of like this. And okay, that was a pretty acceptable first pass, but I'm going to keep going and keep trying and learn a lot in this process just on my non-dominant hand. And I did do my dominant hand after this, but it's not in this video. This is just me doing my very first initial experiments, figuring out how to use this tool on this hand. So anyway, those pockets of skin that are missing, they're like big blisters essentially. But this skin, this keratoderma, does not perform the same when it comes to blisters. Instead of separating down below the epidermis to the dermis and having like a bubble of fluid trying to protect the skin from where it's separated from itself, instead my skin literally just separates. There's no pain because it's not going all the way down past the epidermis, and there's no bubble of fluid. The skin just peels off in patches. And this was, I think, due to raking. I had done a bunch of raking, fertilizing the garden, and also had done a bunch of planting and was just using hand tools, the trowel, etc. And so whatever it was, one tool pressed against my palm on both my hands made these bubbles of skin come off. And so that's why that looks that way. I was assuming that going in on my hands with this grater was going to be challenging. First of all, because I can't use two hands like I can when doing my feet. So I had to figure out how to like get the right pressure while holding it just with one hand. Also, my hands I shave like every 2 weeks, so there wasn't as much skin on them as there is on my feet when I go to shave or rasp them. Like usually my feet I let grow out a month or more before I do the rasping and or shaving. So my hands, because I do them about every 2 weeks, I was afraid the skin might be too thin, but I was surprised to see that it was taking it off nonetheless, and it wasn't like going too deep too quickly or something to the point where I wouldn't want to use it as a tool for my hands. But I was discovering as I was going that it was going to be really hard to do the middle of my hand. So first I'm going around the edges. I did the top of my palm and then the side, and now I'm doing the bottom side. And next is going to be trying to figure out how to get into this middle part, because I can't seem to get it there at all. And when I tried to use my finger for leverage, I popped the freaking blade out. So for a second, I was like, what the hell did I do? I knew it came out, but I hadn't actually taken it out yet. So I had to fuss with it for a minute, but I did figure it out. And I like that these are interchangeable because that means that I can replace it if it gets dull, which is good news. It's doing a pretty good job of removing the harder outer layer, but as soon as I get to the softer skin underneath, it's barely taking off anything. And it's also was like kind of impossible to get it into this middle part of my hand. And this is about the point when I realized, okay, this shaver is going to be for like bulk removal, or this grater is going to be for like bulk removal, and I'm going to have to come in and actually shave after the fact. My thumbs always get really hard. Like the skin here is always the first to get really tough and make me want to like take it off. Fingertips and fingers, but especially my thumb. We use our thumbs to touch so much, including touch screens and so forth, and it just gets really hard. And so I was eager to get that skin off, and actually really pleasantly surprised with how quickly and easily it came up using the grater. It's looking good. I'm going to come back in and try a lot more to get this middle section with not much success. Also, I'm going to disappear for a little while and just let you watch, and I'll pop back in with more comments when I have them. Hello again. So this was about the point when I was realizing this is the maximum the grater can do for me because the skin is thin and so soft. I'm going to have to use the shaver in addition. What I thought was cool about it was that it went so quickly. I can get my hand skin down in about the same period of time. We're 6, 7, 8 minutes into this video. I did cut out a couple bits just because I moved away from the camera for a minute, so I took that part out. But what is remarkable to me is that once I came in with the shaver, it was so soft. We were beyond the hardest, driest outer layer. And so even without spraying the callus softener, I was able to very smoothly and easily come in and remove that skin in the middle there that wasn't being gotten by the grater, that wasn't coming off. And I'm also discovering that I only have to take off these paper thin little layers and I'm already done. And so then I decided, okay, this is obviously going to be the approach for my fingers once I get to them. I'm just going to grate off the bulk and then use the shaver to get off anything that's still a little too thick. But pretty impressed with how quickly that went. And now that that was mostly experimentation. Now that I know that, I'm sure that my fingers and my hand are going to go a lot more quickly because I'm not going to be expecting the grater to be going really deep and to be getting everything off. I'm just going to use the grater to get the hardest outer layer, kind of like a shell almost. The skin, as it gets farther from my hand, gets drier and drier. And so I can use the grater to very rapidly remove that whole tough outer shell of skin. And then I can use the shaver to kind of more detailed thin it out to an even depth. And it's working pretty well. I thought this was curious. I was trying to pull out a long strip, but it didn't want to come out as a strip. But I was trying to show how thin these little pieces are. Because the grater got so much off, I'm able to just do the thinnest little swipes and take off what needs to be taken off. Okay, time to try my fingers with the grater. And I think I actually come in and do my thumb first to finish it off. And I wasn't sure how it would work on my fingertips, but I actually discovered right soon after this that it works pretty well on my fingertips. There was a point when it was getting too close to my nail, and so that's when I stopped. Look at that. And I'll be able to do the rest of it with the shaver or probably with clippers. In this video, I did it with clippers, but the shaver can go a lot closer to my nail. However, I get in the biggest trouble when I'm shaving my fingertips. I can shave my whole hand and not cut myself anywhere. But when I'm on my fingertips, all those little curves and the fact that I keep that skin so thin, it is so dangerous to shave them. And I hate getting cuts on them, even though it does happen. And so I really should be just grating all the way up to my nail and then doing the last little bit with clippers, which I did on this hand, but not in this video. On my other hand, I decided to try and shave it on my thumb and I cut myself. Duh. So I have to just not do that. Old habits die hard. Coming in on the pinky now. And this thing just is so good at taking off that thick bulk excess. I wish it could do the whole job, man. It would be a miracle if I could just grate my whole hands and done and done. I was able to do that with my feet, but I discovered with my feet, even after it had been grated, there was still quite a bit of thickness on the ball of my foot where the skin almost never dries out completely. It's always a bit wet underneath. And so with my hands, I mean, I lotion my feet like 3 times a day, maybe, sometimes 4, sometimes 2. But I lotion my hands every half an hour to an hour. I mean, all day long. So 10 to 20, 30 times a day, depending on how dry, how thick they are, what I'm doing. If I have to wash my hands a lot, I have to lotion them a lot too. So just my hands, the skin is so supple. I was afraid the grater might not even do anything at all, but it does a really good job of taking off the outer layer. I'm going to have to come in and clip this up because I can't even get in there, and I can't get the shaver in there either. So I keep repeating myself, but essentially I discovered that the grater has its limitations, but it does a great job. So let's come in on the other hand, on the other finger, and look at that. Just rapid removal of the bulk of the skin. Like if I didn't have time to use the shaver, this would still do a pretty dang good job, but I'm so used to having my hand skin lower than this that for me it's not going to be enough. Get it in frame. Hello. There we go. Sometimes I forget I'm filming for a second and have to remember, like, oh yeah, I need to keep the content in front of the camera lens. I was really excited at this point that I had sort of found the place of the grater. It's not the holy grail, doesn't solve all my problems, but it's very fast, and it makes the shaving much less tedious afterward and go a lot more quickly. So very exciting stuff. For reference, this is where we started, and it's looking much better. It's still a little thick in some areas. I'm gonna have to come and clean up with the shaver, but on the whole, I'm very pleased, and I feel like next time I do this, it's gonna be even more straightforward and efficient. And in fact, when I did my dominant hand, it did go a lot faster because I wasn't expecting too much out of the grater. Instead of going over it and over it and over it and over it with the grater in the hopes that it would do the whole job, when I did my next hand, I just grated off the excess on the exterior, which took like less than 10 minutes to do, I think, my whole hand total. And then I came in with the shaver to clean it up. And here I got smart, and after it started to feel a little thin with the shaver, I moved on to the clippers. Unfortunately, on my other hand, I kept going with the shaver and I cut myself, but that's not in this video. I have to wait till the next video to see me injure myself slightly. It feels all fine now. It's all better, so it only took a couple days to heal, but that cut was no good. And I hate making videos with me cutting myself in them. I feel like it's in poor taste, but some of you guys want to see like everything, including me messing up, so I'll probably make that video still. Back to the fingers I was just grating. I'm going to shave them down and then move on to the last fingers. It's looking good. Again, reminder where we started. Very thick skin. Getting dirty, stained, unable to be cleaned. And a nice clean pink hand. The reason the skin is pink is because I have thinned it out, very thin. And when my skin is closer to the thinness of your skin or normal skin, I don't know what skin you have, it is more translucent than normal skin. So if your skin was as transparent, translucent as my skin at its current thickness, your hands would also be pink or red. But your skin is more opaque, and so even being very thin, it blocks a lot of the color of the blood. But my skin, when I thin it out like this, it shows the blood flow underneath, and so it does look very pink. But it's not raw, it doesn't hurt, it's not, it doesn't feel hypersensitive, it just feels sensitive again, whereas when the callus is thick, it's very insensitive. It's hard to feel anything. So it feels great to me. I know it does look maybe a bit concerning, but all that redness, the pinkness of my skin is just because it's thinner. And when it's thin, you can kind of see through it. Looking good. Oh, it feels wonderful. I can make a nice tight fist, which is something I struggle to do when it's covered in callus like this. And it went pretty quickly, a half an hour in. And that grater worked great. It was kind of touch and go. But this is my favorite part of getting my hands shaved. I can put my rings on again. They were feeling really uncomfortably tight. So I really needed to redo my nails. Oh my God. But I'm going to leave them because I have a bunch of work to do outside this weekend and they're just going to get ruined. So I will redo them after that. Bye.